Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting installment of the Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast special interview section. Today, I have a man on that doesn't really need an introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and give him one anyway. The guy has been around for a long time. He's seen the likes of Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana come through the independent scene and rise to the occasion. He is the guy who was in charge of pretty much every independent talent, as far as I'm concerned, being on television these days. The guy who runs the UWN. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Marquez. Dave, welcome to the Roundtable Pro
Thanks
Wrestling
for
Podcast.
having me.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure, sir. Like I said, I've known you for a long time. I've known some of the things you've done, some of the places you've been. You've had your hands in a lot. I mean, in a lot of things in
Yeah.
professional wrestling. I mean, championship wrestling from Hollywood, which blew up into a huge like juggernaut for professional wrestling on the West Coast. Um, you also run. You're a producer for New Japan Pro Wrestling USA, correct? You've had your hand in a lot of the NJPW USA, New Japan Strong tapings. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Strong happened, I think, just out of necessity for people to keep their jobs in America. I got a call from the office, Rocky Romero and Jeremy Marcus, great friends. And this is not only my house, by the way, this is the office. So people come in and out here all the time. That's why the dog's freaking out. I have a feeling
No
some people are
worries.
coming back to return some gear. But they gave me a ring and they had an idea of utilizing the contracted New Japan talents that are in America that couldn't go to Japan. Um, and together we came up with Strong. And we shot the program at the Ocean View Pavilion, where we were shooting the Hollywood program at the time. And it worked out. And I guess it's like 2.5 years now we've been doing this. And the producing duties have now been pushed off to other people in our company. Logan Chedwigan is the producer director of that show from David Marquez Productions. I am trying to limit my stretching myself anymore because I am getting older. I'm pushing 50, so I'm more tired these days. But yeah, so that's how that came along, and we've done pay-per-views. We did the big show at the Coliseum here in Los Angeles, out in the courtyard, a beautiful show for pay-per-view, and just weekly television. So we've done a lot.
Yeah, I know weekly television is very hard to put on. Trust me, I do it here in Portland
Yeah,
all the
and we
time, and it's
do.
crazy.
We'll probably get to this, but our company is responsible for. Uh, we have Hollywood, we have Memphis, we have the Atlanta program, we have Strong. This is going to be an issue, I think. Strong. We have Primetime Live, which is every other month on pay-per-view. And then I do GCW when they're in Los Angeles, and we do. I just started directing MLW television. I did
Man,
my first date with them in Dallas this past weekend. So it's been a crazy time here. So
man,
outputting all that stuff is is pretty hectic. Our staff is really stretched, and but we're managing. And then we have MMA and boxing and all this other stuff too. So
man. Do you take a vacation?
I've never taken a vacation ever in my life. I've been around the world countless times. China, Australia,
Then you guys go to
all over
Korea?
Europe, all over North America, all over. I basically lived in Puerto Rico twice a month for almost 2 years,
Yeah,
doing wrestling TV for Savio and Carlos. The stuff with the WWF, WWE, uh, World Class. I'm sorry, not World Class is before me. WCW. Um, I said world class because I looked over and I saw a thing over there that said world class. So I apologize for that. Um, but at any rate, I've been everywhere. But one thing that I've noticed about traveling is it's all the same.
yes.
It's not really that spectacular. It takes forever to get there. I'm a terrific tourist. I'm a horrible traveler.
Oh my God, I'm the
Um,
worst. I'm the
and
worst
uh,
tourist, man.
and when I get there, when I have the opportunity to see stuff, it's nice. But then you see a Subway's, a KFC, a McDonald's, a Wendy's. It's like, well, I came all the way to the Great Wall of China to go to McDonald's. Like,
Hey, I'll be honest, man. Like I travel so much for wrestling over the last 29 years. I've gone like a lot of places, and I've never been a sightseeing person. Um,
Hmm.
I went to Japan, and we went to the Ribera Steakhouse and all the cool places you go to there. But like McDonald's was our spot. KFC was our
Hmm.
spot. Like for like 2 months, that's where we went all the time. Even over in Germany, I'm like, oh, there's a KFC right here. Let's go over here. Like I never really. I like you say, you're a better tourist. You're a horrible traveler. I am a horrible tourist. People think wrestling is so glamorous and you get to go to all these wonderful places. Yeah, I see airports and hotels.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah, people don't realize that you fly 17 hours and time differences, and by the time you get to the buildings or the location, just like this is going to be an issue.
No,
Hang
we're
on,
good.
don't stop it, don't stop it. Hang on.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a quick commercial break while Dave handles the dog. We will be right back.
Drive me insane! All these rules are lame, cause they're taking all the fun out! Drive me insane! All these rules are lame, cause they're taking all the fun out! Drive me insane! All these
And we're back.
Okay,
ladies
sorry
and
about
gentlemen.
that.
That's the reason why I have commercials.
So as I was saying, you get off the plane, the time differences, the everything, all involved. By the time you land, it's just like here in the States if they're flying you to a show, and you get right off and you go straight into you meet people, you go and perform, and then you go home. It's the same thing. It just happens to be in another continent or something. You get right off, they whisk you into whatever sponsor handshake thing. You go and you do the show half asleep or half awake.
Most of the time,
Um, and then it's over and you go back to the hotel, and if it's a tour, you jump in a car, or you get on an airplane, you go to the next spot, and within 3 to 5 days you're traveling back, and you're like, well, what'd you see? Like,
the airport,
dirt.
the hotel.
Nothing. I saw nothing.
It is so true, man. It's crazy because people all the time, man. Hey, you were in Hawaii. You went to Hawaii 11 times in the last like 10 years. Yeah, I saw the island. I saw the water. I saw the hotel, the airport, the venue, the hotel, the airport, home. That's all I saw. So, in this last year before I retire, I think I'm going to try to actually go see things while I'm in these places. So who knows? So you guys started September 17th, 2010, 12 long years ago.
I didn't even
I-
know that.
Hey man, I do my homework. I remember as being a California native watching wrestling on KDOC channel 56.
Hmm.
I mean, I've watched everything from XPW to old ECW at 3 o'clock in the morning to
Mhm.
championship wrestling from Hollywood. That was you started there. I mean, you guys are like almost 600 episodes.
That's
12
right.
seasons. That's a lot. How do you maintain this?
It's not easy. There are times we have a gigantic staff, and then there's times like now where we only have like 3.5 people working in the office because of not just COVID, but just out of finding people with the right experience that can do the job. So we have to deliver the shows. We can't stop. Luckily, we're fortunate enough to have CarShield as a national advertiser, and they're beautiful and they take care of us. If you've watched the programs recently, you may have seen Commerce Casino spots and the United States Marine Corps. That's what keeps us alive. We're an advertising driven show, just like Judge Judy or any other syndicated program. And that's how we it's just out of necessity. It's our job. It's not like our job, like it's my passion to do this or nothing like that. That's just my job. If I was making doorknobs, I'd be turning doorknobs out every day.
All day.
So it's not anything like that. It's just it's out of necessity, and we have over 200 TV outlets, including apps and satellite services and whatnot to feed every week. So. And sometimes some stations get a different version of the show because of how it's put together in the advertising. There might be local advertising. So what airs on KDOC in Los Angeles may not air in Channel 5 in Hawaii, or Peachtree TV in Atlanta or whatever. So it's difficult at times.
And so over the course of the last like 10 or 12 years, I've heard this common phrase when your name comes up and someone says, yo, I work for Marquez, or I've worked this place for Marquez, or I've done this for Marquez. The one phrase that comes up all the time, Marquez mentality. Explain the Marquez mentality.
Well, I mean, I think there's a few ways to look at what people call Marquez mentality. I think Marquez mentality started out as an insult.
Wow.
Truthfully, and it has been turned around into something positive.
I mean, I just assumed it was because of your work rate.
Well, I mean, I think that's a part of it, but like the Marquez mentality, what I try to teach people is that, in the beginning anyways, the value that you might think of yourself is as an individual isn't necessarily what it is. You hear people constantly say, get what you're worth. Well, if you've not proven yourself, even at this level, that you have a value, then what are you worth? So, when people start working for us, even with the beautiful other backhanded compliment of exposure bucks, that
I wasn't going to bring it up, but yeah.
Oh, no, for sure. But people don't understand the reason behind that is because you're at one point we were on close to 260 TV stations in the country, so that exposure is amazing. And these stations aren't just some goofy TV stations. They're real full power, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CW, My Network, independent stations. Some are owned by Disney. Like we were KGO in San Francisco, and we were on Channel 13 in Houston, which are owned by Disney. We were on CBS owned stations, that's not easy to do. And granted, I know that you'll understand that because you're older like I am, but younger people don't understand the magnitude and the importance of a broadcast television station.
Yes.
And especially local TV, I try to look at it and also teach in the Marquez mentality. I call it the weatherman syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Most people on a newscast, when you watch the news, unless you're a real big news hound, you don't necessarily know who the anchors are necessarily. You don't necessarily know who the reporters are, but you'll always know who the weatherman is, always, or the weather person.
Mark Kriske, KTLA Morning News.
Mark Kriske, that's right. He's been on for over 30 years.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for me as a kid growing up, Dr. George Fishback.
George Fishback. Yep.
So there are these great personalities, and this is across the country. Like in New York, it's Storm Fields. They always had these great, or Dallas Raines.
Yeah.
Johnny Mountain. So there are these great gimmicky names. So that's the same thing with wrestling. I really try to get these people to understand that, and so again, I think it started out as an insult, but it has turned around, and more people around the country, if not the world, have come to discover that I kind of know what I'm talking about, even though they don't want to give me credit.
Maybe. I mean, look at your success. You may have a little inkling of what you're doing.
Just a tad.
Just a little bit. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I produce my shoe job. I work for Fox 12 News. So I produce segments and stuff like that for the news all the time. So that's pretty hard. That's easy as compared to producing 52 episodes of live episodic, professional wrestling each week in Portland, Oregon, of all places.
Mm-hmm.
I have to worry about the matches. I have to worry about the times. I have to worry about the story. I have to worry about commercials. I have to worry about sponsorship. I have to worry about the building. I have to worry about the lighting, the sound, everything. It is such a hard job, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, I produce this podcast 3 nights a week, and I produce 2 other podcasts 2 other nights a week for 2 other, along the BodySlam.net network. So it's not as easy as it looks. Trust me, it is not. And for someone to have literally 500 freaking episodes, ladies and gentlemen, 537 to be exact, over 12 seasons. Do you know how hard that is? So,
well, I mean, and I don't want to brag, but I mean, we have 200 and maybe even 300 plus Arizona hours.
Mhm.
We have 25 because we just started it in Atlanta. Our Memphis show has been on the air for 4 years now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then the Primetime Live show is an actual live pay-per-view for 90 minutes. So usually
that's
every
hard
other
too.
month.
And
And
then you
that's
gotta
dealing
think
with
about this, ladies.
satellites and all that stuff too.
Then you got to think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Not only is he doing live shows, because live shows are the hardest to do. Because whatever can happen will happen, and it usually does twice over. Not only is he doing that, but he's also producing New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong shows. And then he's doing MMA and boxing, and now doing GCW. Dave, whatever the thought of Marquez mentality came from, I'm just going to say it is fucking hard work. That's what it is.
It is. It's it's difficult. It has strains on relationships. It has strains on on in family life. It has strains in just mental capacity. It's taken me this long to and go and talk to a professional just to make sure that I'm all together.
Yeah.
And I know it's a big thing right now with everyone, mental health, but of the generation that I come from, it's like suck it up and just go be a tough guy and go do it. This is what you're supposed to do. Yeah,
I totally get it.
Yeah, and being brought up by Puerto Ricans from Puerto Rico, it's like you have to prove a different work ethic alone. Like I wasn't taught Spanish as a kid because they didn't want to teach me Spanish. It wasn't cool to be Latin in Los Angeles, believe it or not.
Right.
When I was coming up, so they purposely didn't teach us this, which is horrible now with the Spanglish that I have.
I grew up in San Pedro. I know.
Yeah.
I grew up in San Pedro. I know.
Well, the riots and everything too, the Zoot Suit riots and all that other stuff from down there. That's part of the the reason why we were never taught. I mean, they told us why, but yeah, it's so strange to think of that today, where everything is so open and for the most part accepted. So, but yeah.
Man, so you're a producer, you're a writer, you're a promoter, you're a booker, you're on-screen talent.
That was out of necessity, by the way. I never wanted to be on camera. The quick story to that. The quick story to that is I was producing a show in the mid-'90s. My first wrestling company that I really owned, it was called World Legion Wrestling. Now it's called World League Wrestling. Harley Race and Gordon Soley were my partners. Good guys to learn from, all the good and the bad. But the reason why I started going on camera was because, and I'm not just saying this because he's not alive anymore. I guess they're both dead now. But Gordon was just drunk constantly.
Okay.
And so
I watched Gordon Soley and Joe Pedicino on this one show called Wrestling News Network back in the 80s and 90s when I first started wrestling. And I can tell you it's fucking licked in.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. Absolutely. When I used to pick him up at the airport, I used to have vodka and Schweppes waiting in the car. And he smoked these like just as long as this pencil, those Benson Hedges cigarettes that were this long.
The stinky ones.
Yeah. Anyhow, he was just beyond plastered all the time. We used to shoot in this dance club called Remington's in Springfield, Missouri, and I always thought it was a pitcher of water on his desk. It wasn't. It was vodka, and the waitresses would bring him a pitcher of. He would pay for it, but basically the whole bottle. And I didn't realize he was drinking vodka on the air. So anyhow, we had to do pre-tapes, but after the show. It was probably it was snowing or something, and people didn't get there in time. But I remember I had to go on. I had to legitimately be the interviewer because he couldn't, and that's how I ended up on television. I think that's the first time I've ever telling this story. That's what happened.
You know, it's funny. Like, and I always tell people like wrestling is such a interesting business to be in, and you're gonna always like that saying, "Always bring your gear." It's a fact. And I'll tell you, June 16th, 1995, I was in a place in Montclair, California called Rock Around the Clock. It's a little
Sure, I know.
nightclub. I think it's a Black Angus now or some shit. I don't know.
I know. I know where
So
it's at.
Mondo Guerrero, I've been training at Gil's Gym in East LA with Mondo Guerrero and Rey Mysterio for months and months and months. And there was they were doing a show and they were like, you gotta pay your dues, kid. Come over, I'm putting the ring up and all that stuff like that. And then Mondo goes, hey, you want to wrestle tonight? And I look at him like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I have no gear, literally didn't own a pair of wrestling boots, nothing. And at the time, there was a Sport Mart across the street. And he goes, here's $100. Run across the street and get you some stuff. I bought some Title boxing boots, the ugliest fucking pair of tights, and I was skinny as a stick. And I bought this singlet, and it was so bad, and they couldn't think of a wrestling name for me. So they were like, oh, he was so fast when we went over there, we'll call you Speed. So they gave me the stupidest fucking name. And then they tell me, you're going to work this match. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I had never been in a match. All I did was train. I train. And I get out there, and they're like, oh, it's a tag team match now. It's this guy named James Boone, the Shadow Man, who used to run a radio show back in the day.
I know what you're talking about.
A guy named Tony Holm, who later became Ludwig Borga and the WWF before passing away, and Mondo Guerrero. And they tell me, we're going to do a tag team match. First match ever. I get in the ring, and these three guys turn and beat the shit out of me. And it turned into a 4-way, 3-on-1 ass whooping for about 10 minutes. And at that point, I knew, okay, I'm hooked. This is what I want to do forever, right? And I remember this distinctively because I was supposed to be running a camera, and I had never thought about ever being in the ring in front of I think it was 100 people at the time, and that phrase, always bring your gear because you never know what's going to happen, happens. You didn't know you were going to be doing interviews. And now look, some 25, 30 years later, you're over here running an empire.
Yeah. It's funny you say. Yeah, it's funny you say that because 3 weeks ago, GCW did LA Fights, and the commentator wasn't there. And Brett Lauderdale came up to me and said, I need you to fill in for this because we're going live. I said, what?
Oh, wow.
He's like, yeah, I need you to go live. I need you to commentate. And I was like, I haven't been a commentator in 10, 12 years. I have no idea what anything is called. I'll call it a this or that or a Cobra Clutch. I don't even call it a $1 million dream. And he was like, oh, it doesn't matter. Just go out there. So I thought I was going to do one match. I ended up doing two. And then X-Pac joined me. But yeah, no, seriously, reputation is quite possibly the most important thing in wrestling. People who are in wrestling will hear the number one rule, in wrestling is. I disagree with a billion of those number one rules, but my biggest number one rule is, be a good person first and foremost. Oh, yeah. And that's it. I don't believe in shaking everybody's hand. I don't believe in that farce, buddy, brother. I don't believe in any of that. If you're a good person and it's not cliquey, I'm not talking like that. Just if you're a good human, you'll rise and people will notice it and you'll get opportunities. But what people teach in wrestling schools, it just kills me with the handshakes and the bowing and all that. You're like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you bowing? Shit. I pay taxes just like you, or maybe you don't. But so it's like it's
2022.
Yeah, but it's like that kind of stuff. It just bugs me. And that gets me heat out there, and then you get Marquez mentality and all that other stuff. So exposure bucks. It's my way of looking at things is completely different. And it's been a tough, or maybe you don't know, or maybe you do since you're looking at stuff. I'll be 32 years into this in February, I think February 14th or 15th. And the only reason why I remember it is because Valentine's era day. In that time, everything has been said about me. I mean, every single thing that can be said has been said. Yeah, maybe 20% of it's true. I'm not a saint. But the stuff I hear about myself versus the people that I've helped, you
Mhm.
know, and
'Cause
where
you talk
and
to
where
a
they've
lot of
gone.
people.
Yeah, yeah, tons of people. You know, I think that says something in what we've created here with the United Wrestling Network, and prior to that, the NWA, and prior to that, World Legion Wrestling, and you know, whatever else.
Well, I'll tell you this before I let you go. Look, I've seen and I've heard and I can imagine all the shit that's been ever been said. But I will tell you one thing that I learned from Rodney Anoya, otherwise known to ladies and gentlemen as Yokozuna. At one point, I was so depressed because of the bullshit and the things that were being said that I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. And Rodney sat me down and said, let me tell you something. Be it good press or bad press, at least they're fucking talking about you. And I didn't understand what that meant until I was at a show and I literally sat in the crowd and this guy was talking so much shit about me, like to me, like obviously didn't know who I was, but he was sitting there talking so much shit about me to me that I was like, dude, let's kick his ass, you know? And like 30 minutes, this guy sat next to me at a show and he talked so much shit about me that I was like, fuck, dude, when you see this fucking guy, let's fuck his ass up, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like gaslighting the shit out of it. He was like going for it. And my spot came. And it was during a match with White Trash Johnny Webb and the late Dynamite D. And I was supposed to jump the guardrail and attack Dynamite D. So I'm like, hold on one second, dude. I'll be right back. And I jump over the guardrail and I start beating the shit out of Dynamite D, right? Me and White Trash Johnny were just beating the shit out of him. And then I grabbed the mic and I turned to the crowd and I said, for you people who don't know who I am, and I look right at him. And I said, I'm the franchise player, the guy that everyone hates, especially this asshole right here in the front row. And he was like, he just looked at me. It goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, that people will talk shit for the sake of talking shit. That's the
It's America. That's America.
It sure is, man. It sure
It's
is.
America. And by the way, speed is way better than prototype.
True.
Just saying.
True. I didn't like John Cena then. I don't like him now. But but you also got to think about it too. When I didn't have ring music either. So that song, when I get high on speed, that was my song. And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, isn't that a drug? Like you just gave me a name of a drug. Like we sure the fuck did. And it was hilarious then. And then, you know, guys like
we sure did. We sure did.
We sure did. And it was Dr. Jerry Graham of all people. Of all people.
Well, for sure.
If you know, you know. If you don't know, Google it. With that being said, Dave, before I let you go, I have a game I want to play. It's a real simple game. It's real cool, real fun. A lot of people, including Matt Seidel, like to change the rules. So we're not going to do that today. The game is called Team With, Feud With, or Fire. Simple process. You can team with anyone in the industry, alive or dead, be it a professional wrestler, commentator, announcer, whatever, whatnot. You can also feud with anyone you want, on screen, of course, whatever, whatnot. And you can fire any son of a bitch you want. No reason needed, unless you want to tell me.
No,
so team with, feud with, fire.
Team with. I mean, I've teamed with so many people already. This is a hard game. Team with. Who would I like to team with? Jim Cornette.
Wow. Okay.
Jim Cornette.
I can kind of see you guys' core wrestling values being the same. So yeah, I'll go with that.
Oh, I've known Jim a long time.
You're an old school guy.
He and I are very friendly. Feud with. I'm already feuding with tons of people. We're just not making any money from
just
it.
Pick a name.
Yeah. Pick his draws damn hats. It's like a CVS receipt.
Oh shit.
And the funny part is I'm not the one who's starting the feuds.
Exactly.
Feud with like. Like if I was ever like on camera feuding with somebody in my position as a promoter or an announcer or whatever, it would be fun to either end up on the television again with Adam Pearce or maybe Carl Anderson. That would be fun. I could the interviews would be really fun.
Yeah, I've seen some interviews with you and Adam Pearce when he was the NWA World Champion. I believe he was doing that 7 stages of fear thing or 7 stages of hell gimmick with
hate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Now, the all important question: who would you fire?
Jesus, who would I fire? I fired many people in 30 years. The guy I legitimately have fired 3 times. He'll even tell you this is Rashi Brown. I kicked Rashi Brown off of I kicked Rashi Brown off of a bus once in Texas.
Oh shit!
Just get off.
That was the NWA. Wasn't it the NWA tour with Sexy Chino was on there?
Yes. Yeah, we did a lot of those tours back then. We had a lot of arenas, and that was when we went around the world a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't fire Russia today. That's tough. I mean, because I think everybody's doing what what they're here to do. I don't know if it's my place to fire anybody who's out there. I mean, everyone's making fools of themselves, so
it's easy.
So I mean, it's kind of like this is what wrestling has become. That our generation is over. Like nobody gives a shit about us necessarily. And so I mean, they're doing their thing, and I think we have to let them do their thing. So. And in the old days, like I say old days, which is funny, but it's 30 years, huh? The old days, I fired just about every. I fired just about everybody. I think they've been fired off my show. But like that's out there. I can't think of anybody necessarily. And this isn't just some like political answer. I really don't think anyone should be fired. Because they're all doing the same thing anyways. So that's just what wrestling is today. It's different. So I can't really argue it because if they're on television making money, big money,
gotta be doing something right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
that is the most honest answer I think I've gotten on this podcast whenever I've asked that question. So thank you very much for that.
Well, no problem. I try to be me, and that's what brings me heat.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? Sometimes, like I said, man, if Cat Williams said this. He said, "Ladies, if you got 12 haters, you doing something wrong. Because bitch, by summertime, you need to have 13 or 14. You know." And I quote the phrase a lot. Haters. If you look up the definition of a hater, it should state a hater is a fan in denial. Because if you think about it, if someone is researching so much shit to hate on you about, they're just a fan. See, there it is. So, Dave, thank you very much for joining us, man. It's always an honor and privilege to talk to you. Tell the people where they can find you next.
Oh boy, I mean, I'm trying to think of all the websites and stuff. I don't know if it's MemphisWrestling.com or ChampionshipWrestlingForMemphis.com. I think the easiest way to find us is just go to YouTube and search for Championship Wrestling. All of our programming comes up. It's hosted by the Memphis site. Dustin Starr, who's my partner there, he is just an amazing human being. He was once under developmental in Florida, and
that's where I know him from. I knew it.
And he's an on-camera. He and his wife Maria, who's also a partner, they're hosts on the CW30. So they're the people who you see pop up after Seinfeld or something, encouraging you to go out to an event, or they're in parades representing the station. And they're on the news and stuff because it's an ABC and CW station, so they do both. But he's a wrestler, and that's a whole different story we can go into later. But he really has brought the social media together and the YouTube together and all that. We have United Wrestling TV.com, HollywoodWrestling.com. I think we're WrestleAtlanta.com there, or just want to know more about my company. It's David Marquez, PROD, like productions, David Marquez Prod.com, and you'll see the other programming we do. And it hasn't been updated Yeah, it hasn't been updated for a minute, but because we've been so damn busy. Um, but shortly the whole thing is going to be redone. And the interesting thing, I'll leave you guys with this is kind of a cliffhanger, I guess, for the people who do care. I'm ditching the city names on the majority of the show. Memphis Wrestling is only going to stay, and everything else is just going to become Championship Wrestling presented by Card Shield. Because one, I'm splitting the budget up between 3 areas, right?
Mhm.
So in my mind, let's put that all into one show, one broadcast for the talent and payouts and everything everybody's complaining about anyways.
Man.
So let's try our best to make it into one good show. And the new website where everything should be shortly is studiowrestling.com, where you can find everything there. And because what I said earlier about the younger fans, they didn't grow up with territories. They didn't grow up with localized programming. So they don't understand that the United Wrestling Network is a sanctioning body, much like what the National Wrestling Alliance was. And today the NWA is not a sanctioning body. So in their minds, they don't understand what that means.
Trust me, these belts in my trophy case are from sanctioning bodies of the NWA, and they're unrecognized now.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah, but you were in a tough time. That could be a different conversation too.
Yeah, that's
but I have an NWA back here as well, back there. So Championship Wrestling presented by Card Shield will replace all of the programming, and it'll be more like Top Rank boxing or UFC, where
nice.
or WWE, where it's one company, which is United Wrestling Network is the company, and the name of the broadcast is Championship Wrestling. And just keep it simple. Memphis has to stay Memphis. One, because we have an agreement with the station, but two, it's working because the station is our partners. Like when you work at a TV station, if you did a wrestling show, would they put their logo on the turnbuckles and mic flags?
Oh, yes. Fox would.
Would they?
Yes.
In Portland?
Fox wants to control Fox Channel 12 in Portland wants to control everything. Ask the late, well, you can't ask him now, but the late great Roddy Piper, who ran Portland Wrestling out of Fox.
Oh
12.
no, I helped him with that.
Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about.
No. I'm the one who got Morty in there, and he fucked that deal up.
Oh, Jesus Christ! We'll talk about Morty another day.
Yeah, I mean, he completely fucked that up. But I didn't know you were at that station. I know Mike Sharif, this
Station producer. Station manager.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. No, we're old friends. I didn't know you were there. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh man, hey, I'm telling you. And it's funny how I got the job because I was I was editing and producing video clips and promo videos for guys for a long time. Ever since I was at New Japan Dojo, I was doing that for Durango and those guys down there, and I learned it just by messing around one day. So when I came to Portland, I did a show, and Joe V was the special guest referee. And I did the storyline with Joe V and another guy, and I was cutting videos on them every week. And Joe was like, "Wow, that's a great video. Who did that for you?" I'm like, "Well, I did that myself." He says, "Man, you should apply for a job in my studio." And I'm like, "Okay." Then I beat the hell out of him the next night because he was a referee. So I go to the studio for an interview, and the guy says, "So you beat up Joe V?" And we have a long, 30-minute conversation about how I beat Joe V up. And then he says, "Well, I'll see you on Monday, right?" And I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "You want the job, right?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." That's how it happened.
I just saw he got a promotion too.
Oh, BCW Worldwide. Yep. We run every Sunday night.
Yeah. No, not you. God. I said Joe V. Joe V got a promotion.
Yeah.
These people have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, don't even listen to us. I mean, you people who are in Portland that watch us on the local television network here in Portland, you know who he is. But other than that, disregard. With that being said, Dave, thank you very much for joining us, man. I look forward to extending our conversation and having a longer time so we can get in depth on some other things that we discussed earlier.
You got it.
I mean, have a good day. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on BodySlam.net.